and we are retiring after 2 sips for dinner, and you're more than welcome to join us there.
Questions, anybody? Yes, ma'am. Can't remember your name. Starts with an L.
It's Caitlin, right?
Huh?
Caitlin.
Caitlin. Hi, Caitlin. Go ahead.
I was wondering, you may have mentioned it already, but about how long have you been working on that entire?
Some of them were published in 1984. I don't really think about it in terms of time. She does, I don't. She goes with deadlines. I work forever. I do. I'm very slow. I work forever. And you know, to me, it's like well, one of my best teachers was a guy named Brendan Galvin, and he was he was a very common sense person, and he had these big art, you know, sketch pads, and he would work on poems, and I do it with computer files. He would, you know, work on one, and then he would sort of flip through, work on this other one, and you know what I mean? It would be his routine, and so that's what I do. You know, I've been doing this a long time, so I have a pretty extensive backlog. You know, I think I'm putting together another book here before too long, and you know, so the way I do it is that I do it sometimes. My students, it's like their mouths drop. I'll say, I've been working on this about 30 years, and they're not even 30. They're not even 20. You know, that's the way I like it. I would rather do that. The only problem is, and I said this the other night at a reading, my only problem is I need more than one lifetime. And as I understand it, haven't done the research, but as I understand it, even Christianity, somewhere in its origins, talked about reincarnation. I think it would be a wonderful thing to have another life. I would need about 10 or 12 as a tree next to water. You know, but then maybe someday I'd get back to this person who writes. You know, I think for me, it's very important. Of course, I didn't, you know, the way that I set up, the way I sort of worked into my career is that I was not under pressure to publish. I'm a teacher, right? But I'd always written and published, but it's something I can do on my own time. If you wanted to try to teach and get a tenure-track job at a college, you'd be under pressure, which everybody is, right? And there's a lot to that. Good question. Anybody else? Questions? Oh, please, another question. Yes.
When you present these poems that you know, spent a long time just kind of going over and stuff, is there still an element of vulnerability that you feel? Or is it just kind of a, you know, these are just stories, these are just parts of my life, and I just want to share them?
When you say vulnerability, you make me think about the degree to which a person identifies with what he or she produces. And that's choice. I always tell my students, if you're in a workshop situation, it's probably not a good idea for you to identify with what you've written, because you're going to take it personally when somebody criticizes it. So I do try to move toward a detachment toward what I've done. At the same time, I think vulnerability is a huge challenge and blessing for an American male who grew up in the South. It's very difficult to find a vulnerability. It's just very difficult when you were never taught that. So I do think that if people can see that in this somewhere, if they can sense that, that's a good thing to me. You know, I don't even know if I answered your question. I hope I did. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Bill, right? Bill?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What's your name?
Susanna.
Susanna, yeah.
I'd just like to hear you talk a little bit more about identity. And when you were talking about that, I was thinking of Washington Irving, you know, this perennial problem of sounding like yourself. For him, it was trying not to sound like a British writer. And for Derek Walcott, you know, he went through the same thing. William Carlos Williams went to Paris and hung out with a high modernist and came back, no, I'm going to write about New Jersey. And, you know, a lot of poets have had to figure out how to assimilate their models, but turn that into their own local speech.
I agree. I think you're exactly right. Is that not called The Anxiety of Influence? Isn't there some book written about it? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, the way I tend to think about it is with regard to music, because I'm a musician. And I don't know why I don't think about it in terms of writing, but I think it's a pretty good analogy. When I was growing up, I was learning how to play the drums, you know, rock and roll. So I would just put the album on the old Zenith and just, sit there and bang away, turn it up real loud, just bang away. That's the way I did it. And so I was like trying to learn Ringo Starr licks, and I was trying to learn Ginger Baker licks, and Bill Bruford licks, whatever, Buddy Rich licks, trying to learn all these different influences, and did a lot of them. And then as time passed, without me planning it, I sort of came to what I could do within my own abilities and my own likes, what I wanted to do. So that's the best answer I have about that. My concern, especially with young people, is that they, creative writing in this country has become pretty seriously standardized. And that's, in my opinion, an unfortunate thing. I'm adamantly contrarian, adamantly individualistic, not a member of any school. And obviously that, so I'm probably not going to win any prizes, if you know what I'm saying. That's what I've always been. I've always been that way when I was young. But on the other hand, there's a mainstream and there's a heck of a lot of money in it. And there are a lot of people who take advantage of that mainstream, and they're extremely talented people. And it's a very good situation for people who sort of want to advance their careers in that way. I think maybe I'm old school. I think I subscribe to the notion that if somebody wants to try to be creative, that person's job is to reach as far inside himself and get whatever's in there out onto a page the best it can be. For me, that's the center of the work, and everything else is gravy. That's the way I feel about it, and I know that's not, like I say, that may be old school, but I'm 60 years old. It's a little bit late to start trying to pretend to be something I'm not. You're young. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing if you want to try to write. It's a wonderful thing because you'll find that things are coming to you and you don't know where they came from, and it'll be scary.